What's the strangest rule your family had that made no sense until you learned the real reason? My dad had this weird rule. Nobody could eat apples in our house, ever. Not applesauce, apple juice, apple pie, or even those little caramel apple suckers from the checkout line. He'd literally stand at the front door when we returned from shopping, methodically checking our grocery bags like a customs agent, removing any Apple products before we could bring them inside. I thought he was just being ridiculously controlling. My friends at school thought our family was completely insane. I remember being 8 years old, sitting at the cafeteria table, watching other kids happily munch on crisp apple slices while I sat there with my plain crackers, feeling like a social outcast. When kids offered to share their apple slices, I'd have to make up elaborate excuses about not being hungry. The rule applied to everyone who entered our home. Guests, relatives, even my sweet grandmother had to finish her daily apple outside on the front porch before Dad would let her cross the threshold. He'd stand at the door like a nightclub bouncer, politely but firmly checking pockets and purses. Teachers would mention how I'd adamantly refused to participate in apple-themed activities, sitting quietly in the corner while other children made apple prints or learned about Johnny Appleseed. Halloween was particularly mortifying. Dad would dump my entire trick-or-treat bag onto the kitchen table and examine every piece of candy like a forensic scientist. Anything with apple flavoring would be removed and discarded without ceremony. Green apple Jolly Ranchers, apple-flavored gum, caramel apple lollipops all went straight into the trash. My friends started calling our house Fort No Apple, and some parents whispered about our family's strange habits. By high school, I was furious. I'd argue with him constantly, throwing teenage tantrums that echoed through our house. "It's just fruit, Dad. Normal fruit that billions of people eat every day. You're ruining my life with this stupid obsession." But he'd always respond with the same maddeningly calm phrase, "Trust me, son, it's for everyone's safety." He never explained what that meant, no matter how much I begged or screamed for answers. When I left for college, the first thing I did was march to the campus grocery store and buy an entire bag of bright red Gala apples. I felt like a prisoner tasting freedom for the first time. I ate 3 that first day, savoring each bite and feeling wonderfully free. I couldn't understand what my father had been so afraid of all these years. Junior year, I brought my girlfriend Sarah home to meet my parents. I'd warned her about the weird apple rule, and we'd laughed about how ridiculous my family was. She thought it was charming and decided to bring homemade apple cinnamon cookies as a gift, completely forgetting our conversation in her excitement to make a good impression. That first night, after my parents went to bed, Sarah quietly ate one of her cookies while we watched television in the living room. "These are really good," she whispered. "Your dad doesn't know what he's missing." 2 hours later, I woke up to the terrifying sound of her desperately gasping for air, her lips turning blue in the dim moonlight. Her throat had swollen shut completely. We rushed to the emergency room where she barely survived anaphylactic shock. That's when Dad finally told me the truth he'd hidden for years. His hands shook as he spoke in that sterile hospital waiting room. When I was 6 months old, he'd given me a tiny taste of apple puree. Within minutes, I'd gone into anaphylactic shock so severe that I was clinically dead for 2 full minutes. The paramedics had to use epinephrine twice to restart my heart. The doctor said if he'd waited even 30 seconds longer to call 911, I wouldn't have survived. I developed the allergy so young I had no memory of the incident, but Dad never forgot those horrible moments watching his baby stop breathing.